Unexpected arrivals. The Galactic Defense Academy existed as more than an institution, it was a living testament to interstellar cooperation, a crucible where the most promising cadets from hundreds of civilizations were forged into guardians of cosmic peace. Its quantum crystal architecture shifted and breathed, adapting to the complex sensory needs of its multicultural inhabitants. Most species prepared generations for a single cadet's admission. Genetic optimization, centuries of specialized education, and rigorous selection processes typically produced one representative per civilization. The academy didn't just train military strategists, it cultivated diplomats, explorers, and peacekeepers who could navigate the intricate web of galactic politics. And then there were the humans. Adrien Jackson, Miguel Hernandez, and Raj Patel represented something entirely unprecedented. Their admission wasn't just unusual, it was statistically implausible. They came from Earth, a planet classified as a death world with gravity, radiation, and environmental conditions that would obliterate most known species. Their environmental suits told a story of adaptation. Where other cadets relied on quantum entanglement, neural networks, and complex biochemical communication, humans used vocal language and body movements that most advanced species found charmingly archaic. But there was something else beneath that primitive exterior, a resilience that made the more perceptive instructors slightly uncomfortable. Commander Weeks Thor, a seven-limbed tactical instructor whose bioluminescent authority markings could communicate entire dissertations through subtle color shifts, had personally reviewed their admission files. The human's background was unconventional. Adrien Jackson's file revealed a background in extreme environment engineering. His doctoral thesis on adapting technology to hostile planetary conditions had been published across 17 different academic networks. Miguel Hernandez came from a military family with a history of innovative tactical thinking, having developed guerrilla warfare strategies that had been studied by multiple planetary defense forces. Raj Patel was a computational systems expert who had developed adaptive AI algorithms that could learn and modify themselves in real time. Individually, they were impressive. Together, they were something else entirely. The Academy's main promenade was a symphony of advanced technology. Holographic displays shifted in real time, providing personalized information streams calibrated to each species' unique sensory capabilities. Quantum AI constructs floated by, delivering lessons through methods ranging from electromagnetic pulses to chemical information drops. And in the middle of this technological masterpiece stood three humans, looking simultaneously out of place and remarkably composed. "Look at them," whispered Zix Val, their crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that conveyed a mixture of amusement and mild contempt. Three humans, admitted to the most advanced military training facility in the known galaxy. Can you imagine? KRX, a gaseous entity contained within an elegant mobility sphere, wafted closer. Their form rippled with what passed for laughter among their species. "Diplomatic experiment," they muttered. "A gesture of interspecies cooperation." What the alien observers didn't realize was that the humans' evolutionary path on a death world had equipped them with skills far beyond technological sophistication. Adaptability. Improvisation. An almost pathological inability to accept defeat. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson about underestimating species from planets with higher-than-average gravitational challenges and a tendency to solve problems by hitting them until they worked. And the humans were just getting started. Tactical preparations. The prep room assigned to the human cadets was a study in controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with schematics of their assigned heritage vessels, a term that dripped with condescension from the Academy's more advanced species. To most, these ships looked like relics, museum pieces that belonged in a historical exhibit rather than an active military training exercise. Adrien Jackson stood at the center of the room, his environmental suit's data pad projecting a three-dimensional model of their assigned vessel. The ship was a carry-designed craft from their first interstellar exploration era, a period most galactic civilizations would charitably describe as quaint and less charitably as embarrassingly primitive. Look at this, Raj muttered, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. These systems are completely analog. No quantum entanglement, no neural interfaces, no AI assistance. They've literally given us the technological equivalent of a wooden stick to fight a plasma cannon. Miguel leaned in, a predatory grin spreading across his face. Not a stick. A weapon. The other cadets had been assigned sleek, advanced vessels bristling with quantum shielding, precognitive combat computers, and neural-linked weapon systems. The Blue Fleet, led by Zix Val, represented the pinnacle of galactic military technology. Their flagship boasted systems so advanced that most species would require decades of specialized training to operate effectively. In contrast, the Red Fleet, deliberately assigned to the lowest-ranked cadets, had been given ships that looked like they had been pulled from a technological archaeological dig. They think they're punishing us, Adrien said, scrolling through the specifications. The magnetic shields were rudimentary. The gravitic drives looked like they belonged in a museum. Projectile weapons instead of energy-based systems. No automated targeting. No predictive combat algorithms. To most species, this would be a death sentence in a complex space combat simulation. To the humans, it was an opportunity. No quantum systems means no potential for quantum hacking, Miguel observed. No neural interfaces means no way to predict or manipulate our tactical decisions through thought-based communication. Raj was already mapping out the vessel's mechanical systems. These old gravitic drives? They're actually more flexible than modern quantum propulsion. They can make movements that would be computationally impossible for a neural-linked system to predict. The humans worked with a synchronicity that confused most of their alien classmates. Where other species relied on instantaneous telepathic communication or quantum-entangled thought-sharing, the humans used something more primal. Glances. Micro-expressions. A language of subtle body movements and shared context that most species dismissed as primitive. Commander Weeks Thor's pre-exercise briefing played on a secondary display. The exercise parameters were simple. 2 fleets would engage in simulated combat within the neutral training sector. Objective: capture or disable the opposing fleet's command vessel while protecting their own. The Blue Fleet's ships sparkled with quantum shielding. Neural-linked weapon systems. Precognitive combat computers that could predict engagement scenarios milliseconds before they occurred. The Red Fleet's ships looked like they had been cobbled together from spare parts found in a galactic junkyard. They really should have paid more attention to human history, Raj muttered, pulling up ancient Earth military archives. Especially how we got into space in the first place. Miguel chuckled. You mean by being too stubborn to accept that something was impossible? Exactly. The room's environmental controls struggled to manage the humans' elevated body temperatures. While most species carefully modulated their internal environments, human biology ran hot, a remnant of evolving on a planet with challenging survival conditions. Outside the prep room, alien cadets whispered and projected their amusement. Crystalline beings like Zix Val rang with condescending frequencies. Gaseous entities like KRX swirled with what passed for laughter in their species. They didn't realize the humans were listening. And recording. And planning. Did you get what we needed? Adrien asked, reviewing the last of the schematics. Raj's grin turned positively predatory. Oh yeah. They really should have paid more attention in history class. The first rule of warfare, after all, is to never underestimate your opponent. A lesson the galaxy was about to learn, courtesy of 3 humans from a little understood death world. The exercise begins. The training sector resembled a miniature galaxy, holographic stars swirling around the assembled cadets like a living, breathing celestial map. Commander Weeks Thor's bioluminescent patterns shifted to formal instruction mode, their 7 limbs creating intricate shadow patterns that conveyed more information than most species' entire communication systems. Exercise parameters are now active, the commander announced, causing several quantum-sensitive species to vibrate with anticipation. The Red and Blue fleets began to position themselves. Blue Fleet, commanded by the most elite cadets and led by Zix Val, deployed their quantum-linked vessels with mathematical precision. Each ship moved like a perfectly synchronized dance, neural interfaces allowing instantaneous communication and predictive maneuvers. In stark contrast, the Red Fleet's heritage vessels looked like they had been pulled from a historical museum. Primitive gravitic drives. Magnetic shields. Projectile weapons that most advanced species would consider archaeological artifacts rather than functional combat systems. And they were commanded by 3 humans. Inside the command vessel, Adrien Jackson studied the holographic display with an intensity that made the ship's antiquated systems seem to hum with unexpected energy. Miguel Hernandez managed the ship's mechanical systems, his fingers dancing across analog control panels in a way that would make most advanced species laugh. Raj Patel was the wild card. While the ship's computational systems were generations behind modern technology, he was transforming them into something entirely unexpected. "They're using standard quantum fleet deployment patterns," Miguel observed, pointing to the Blue Fleet's initial formation. "Textbook approach. Predictable." Adrien nodded. "Which means they'll expect us to respond in a predictable way." The first hour of the exercise went exactly as the Blue Fleet expected. The Red Fleet's ships moved slowly, seemingly struggling with their outdated systems. Zix Val's flagship, a marvel of quantum technology, tracked their movements with contemptuous ease. "Look at them," Zix Val broadcast across multiple sensory wavelengths. "They can barely maintain formation. This will be the shortest exercise in Academy history." What none of the Blue Fleet realized was that the humans were collecting data with every seemingly clumsy movement. Each mistake was a carefully calculated probe, testing the limits of the advanced fleet systems. Raj had discovered something fascinating about the heritage vessels. Their analog systems, while primitive, were also immune to the quantum-based disruption technologies that modern fleets relied upon. Where a quantum-linked ship could be potentially hacked or its neural interfaces manipulated, these old vessels operated on pure mechanical principles. "They're going to try to use quantum entanglement disruption," Raj muttered, making minute adjustments to their gravitic drive. "But these old systems? They don't have anything to disrupt." The Blue Fleet's first attack came precisely as the humans predicted. A wave of quantum-based interference that would typically disable modern ship systems. Against a contemporary fleet, it would have been devastating. Against their heritage vessels, it was completely ineffective. Zix Val's confusion was palpable, spreading across the sensory spectrum like a wave of disbelief. Their perfect, mathematically calculated attack had produced absolutely no result. "Impossible," they transmitted, their crystalline form vibrating with a mixture of frustration and emerging concern. Miguel's laugh was soft but carried a predatory edge. "Not impossible. Just, unexpected." The exercise was about to get interesting. As the holographic display continued to show the developing battle, the human cadets moved with a synchronicity that defied conventional military logic. They weren't fighting like a modern, technologically advanced fleet. They were fighting like survivors. Like a species that had clawed its way out of a hostile planet, using nothing but ingenuity and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson about underestimating humans. And it was going to be a painful lesson indeed. Tactical revelation. The battle entered its third hour, and everything the galactic elite thought they knew about warfare was unraveling. Blue Fleet's quantum-linked vessels, designed with millennia of advanced technological refinement, found themselves outmaneuvered by what should have been hopelessly obsolete heritage vessels. The humans weren't just surviving, they were systematically dismantling the most advanced tactical formations in the known galaxy. Commander Weeks Thor's bioluminescent markings flickered with what could only be described as professional fascination. The exercise had transformed from a simple training simulation into something far more significant, a fundamental challenge to everything the Galactic Defense Academy understood about combat strategy. Inside the human command vessel, Adrien Jackson, Miguel Hernandez, and Raj Patel operated with a fluidity that defied traditional military communications. Where other species relied on instantaneous quantum telepathy, they used something far more nuanced, a combination of verbal shorthand, micro-expressions, and an almost telepathic understanding born from years of shared experience. "Their quantum network is trying to predict our next move," Raj muttered, his fingers dancing across the analog control systems. "But these old ships have no predictable network to hack." Miguel grinned. "They're looking for complex quantum signatures. We're giving them mechanical noise." The Blue Fleet, led by Zix Val, had begun the exercise with absolute confidence. Their flagship boasted a Type 7 precognitive combat computer, supposedly capable of calculating millions of potential engagement scenarios per microsecond. It had been donated by the most prestigious technical academy in the known galaxy, a point of immense pride for Zix Val's crystalline species. That same computer was now experiencing what could only be described as a systemic breakdown. The heritage vessels moved in patterns that defied computational prediction. Where modern ships would follow precise, mathematically optimized trajectories, these ships moved with an almost organic unpredictability. They used gravitic drives in ways that violated every known tactical manual. "They're not flying," one of the Blue Fleet's tactical officers transmitted in shock. "They're improvising." Improvisation was not a word typically associated with advanced military strategy. It suggested chaos, randomness, the antithesis of the carefully calculated warfare practiced by most galactic civilizations. The humans saw it differently. Adrien Jackson studied the holographic display, recognizing something his alien counterparts missed. These heritage vessels, with their mechanical systems and lack of advanced computational support, were essentially extensions of their crews. Every movement was a direct, unfiltered expression of human tactical thinking. "They're trying to understand our decision-making process," Miguel observed, watching the Blue Fleet's increasingly desperate maneuvers. "But they're looking for quantum patterns in a mechanical system." Raj had been systematically mapping the Blue Fleet's quantum communication networks. What he discovered was both fascinating and exploitable. The advanced ships were so interconnected that disrupting one could create cascading failures across the entire fleet. "Their strength," Raj muttered, "is also their greatest weakness." The Academy's observing instructors watched in stunned silence. Commander Weeks Thor's 7 limbs moved in complex patterns that translated to a mixture of professional shock and emerging respect. The humans weren't just participating in the exercise. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of space warfare. Zix Val's crystalline form vibrated with a mixture of frustration and emerging fear. Their perfectly calculated tactical formations were being systematically dismantled by what should have been the most disadvantaged fleet in the exercise. How? They transmitted across multiple sensory wavelengths. How are they doing this? The answer was deceptively simple: they were human. A species that had evolved on a planet classified as a death world. A civilization that had reached space through sheer, stubborn determination. A culture that saw limitations not as barriers, but as challenges to be overcome. The fleet exercise was no longer just a training simulation. It had become a statement, a declaration that technological sophistication was no match for adaptive intelligence and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. And the humans were just getting started. Galactic paradigm shift. The final hour of the fleet exercise transformed from a simple training simulation into a moment that would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. Blue Fleet, once considered the pinnacle of tactical excellence, was now a scattered collection of quantum-linked vessels struggling to comprehend their systematic defeat. Their precognitive combat computers, the most advanced technology in the known galaxy, had been reduced to what could only be described as electronic confusion. Commander Weeks Thor's bioluminescent markings cycled through colors that no existing xenolinguistic database could fully translate. It was a display of professional excitement, scientific curiosity, and a dawning recognition that everything they understood about warfare was about to change. Inside the human command vessel, Adrien Jackson, Miguel Hernandez, and Raj Patel moved with a synchronicity that defied conventional understanding. They weren't just operating a ship, they were conducting a symphony of mechanical improvisation. "Final approach," Miguel announced, his fingers dancing across analog control systems that most species would consider museum pieces. Raj's voice was calm, almost clinical. "Quantum network is still trying to predict our movement. They haven't realized we're operating outside their computational models." The truth was both simple and revolutionary. The heritage vessels, those supposedly obsolete relics, had become the ultimate weapon against a technologically sophisticated fleet. Their mechanical systems, immune to quantum disruption, moved with an unpredictability that no advanced computational system could anticipate. Zix-Val's crystalline form vibrated with a mixture of professional humiliation and emerging respect. Their flagship, a marvel of quantum engineering, had been systematically outmaneuvered by what should have been the most disadvantaged fleet in the exercise. "Capture sequence initiated," Adrien announced, his voice carrying a tone of quiet determination that sent ripples of unease through the quantum-sensitive species observing the exercise. The final maneuver was nothing short of tactical poetry. The human fleet didn't just defeat the blue fleet, they demonstrated a fundamental misunderstanding of warfare that most advanced civilizations had forgotten. Adaptation. Improvisation. The ability to turn limitations into strengths. As the exercise concluded, the holographic displays showed something unprecedented. The Red Fleet, commanded by 3 humans from a planet classified as a death world, had not only survived but completely neutralized the Blue Fleet's command structure. Commander Weeks Thor's announcement came across all sensory wavelengths, a transmission that would be studied and debated across multiple civilizations. "Cadet Jackson, Hernandez, and Patel. Your tactical approach represents a fundamental re-examination of combat strategy. Unprecedented performance logged." The observation hull erupted in a cacophony of sensory expressions. Crystalline beings resonated with conflicting frequencies. Gaseous entities swirled in complex patterns of shock and emerging respect. Neural-linked species processed the data with a mixture of professional admiration and professional terror. They had just witnessed something revolutionary. In the prep room, after the exercise, the human cadets maintained their characteristic composure. No grand celebrations. No excessive displays of triumph. Just a shared look, a communication more complex than any quantum-linked system could hope to decode. KRX, the gaseous entity who had initially mocked the humans, now drifted closer with what could only be described as professional respect. "How?" they asked, a transmission that carried genuine curiosity. Raj's response was characteristically direct. "We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Adaptation isn't just a strategy for us. It's survival." The implications were profound. The Galactic Defense Academy had entered the exercise believing they were testing the humans. Instead, the humans had tested the entire concept of advanced military strategy. As the cadets prepared for their post-exercise briefing, one thing became abundantly clear: the galaxy had fundamentally underestimated humanity. And they were about to learn why species from death worlds were not to be underestimated. The exercise was over. But the real lesson was just beginning.